Okay, well, okay, well, I don't see anything. Oh, that's the chat. I guess we're live, and now I got to go. First time setting up OBS, so sorry about this, everybody, but I'm going to probably post a different live stream. Can you go ahead and try something, Brent, and go ahead and say something? Yeah. Yeah, we'll see if this works. Hopefully my mic isn't picking up on the speakers, stuff like that. The weird thing is I set up the YouTube live stream first, but then in OBS it created another live stream. So I'm not sure why this has done this. Select stream. Okay, so I'm going to kill this one. Maybe. There we go. No, it didn't start. That's weird. No data. Okay, well, I'm not going to kill this one but what I need to do is get a URL real quick for everybody because this is, OBS created the stream and I should have done it through OBS for later because it didn't, I don't know how to connect to the other stream on YouTube. So give me a second. I'm going to go look. Always a technical glitch in the first time you try something. I knew this was going to happen. YouTube Studio. Content.
I don't know. Musk got that booster to be caught that first time. Dang.
Yeah. Well, all right. So I am going to tell everyone that the link is actually over here. Give me a second. Okay. Frustrating. Give me 1 second. Can you say hi? General. Link to the live stream changed. Sorry. There. Okay. So, interesting. Anyway, we are live for sure. So that's great. Well, let's go ahead and, since it's already recording and everything, let's just go ahead and jump. Good to see you. You are not the mystery guest, by the way. We had a mystery guest because we weren't sure if you were going to be able to make it, but it's all good. You're here, which is awesome. And lots of updates going on. But in general, I guess the biggest thing is that there is a mystery guest, and he's outside the door right now. So he's somebody that's been helping us out with something we're calling Genius Tube or Streaming Genius or something like that. And so he'll pop in when he gets a chance and kind of be behind the scenes here. Anyway, so it's pretty interesting last couple of months. I just want to address first thing is Mainnet. Our Mainnet is basically everybody's saying, oh, well, you've been saying it's 99.99% ready for, a year now. And it is. It's really Mainnet and has been Mainnet, but we've been in beta to make sure that, there's no security issues. But in general, Mainnet is, for me, the last piece of that is the ability for somebody to go buy Genius tokens on Ethereum or Polygon or Base or Binance, and then actually use those tokens on those main nets to actually do AI processing underneath. And we had that ability a couple years ago when the exploit happened with Axler bridging. And right now, I am finishing up, and the team is finishing up this kind of bridging mechanism that allows you to buy the tokens on Ethereum, for cash using any decentralized exchanges or our wallet, because our wallet is embedded with what's the name of that payment system that we embedded? So much on my mind. I'll think of it. But anyway, there is a payment system embedded in the wallet where you can actually buy and sell Genius tokens directly for fiat currencies, which is a huge step for us in order for people to either use a command line or a UI to basically do the AI processing and set up AI processing jobs. So our mainnet is kind of not necessarily, it's not built to help, the price of the utility token. Let's get that off the table first. What it is it's enabling our businesses to move forward with partnerships or joint ventures or customers to actually utilize the token and utilize the AI system. That has all been working for months. And the last part of that is getting the payment system in place in the wallet, which we've done. And then the messages when you actually buy the tokens and want to use them, and bridging those tokens down into our Super Genius network. And so we're working on something called RLP and the RLPX and Disk V4, which is a peer-to-peer networking where we tie into the blockchains, the EVMs, and watch for those messages. And basically it's like, okay, this person wants to transfer the tokens from Polygon or from Ethereum, and they want to, as soon as that happens, the job happens and it gets transferred down to our Super Genius network, and then the AI processing happens, and then everybody gets paid out. So that is mainnet for us. Now, will that, change the price of the token? Highly unlikely, unless people start speculating again, which I don't care about, because what it does enable is our ability to now get customers onboarded to use the AI, and for them to be able to start paying us 90% less than everybody else to do things like a chat application. And secondly, wherever I am in the numbers, we have 3 games that we've developed. And those 3 games are going to be published when we have mainnet as not beta anymore, or they might still be beta. But it doesn't matter if they're in beta, because the mainnet is now live. And so even if they're in beta, they're still going to get payouts from the mainnet. And so it doesn't really matter whether that's beta or not, or any of the applications are beta. On top of it, our wallet, of course, now has those payment rails in there. And so you can trade crypto, and we also can earn fees from the trading of crypto or the trading of Genius or the selling of the AI processing. And so our next kind of really big push, and which I've been doing over the last couple months, is business development, to get people to onboard to our system and have the payment rails there and the payment channels for it to reach down into the Super Genius network to do all the execution. And so mainnet is not it's a term that we're going to have very shortly, but in general, it does the project no good to, keep asking me when mainnet's going to be done, because it's irrelevant at this point until we have, our first paying customer, or we're producing our first project on top of it that's using the mainnet stuff. The mainnet really doesn't matter. And so, but we are going to continue. Do you have a dog in the background? Is that you?
Oh, well, there is a dog. I would have thought that would have been filtered out. Let me go ahead and mute myself. It's not my dog. It's a dog in the neighborhood.
Oh, okay. No problem. I was just like, I heard it and it was like echoing all over. But anyway, so in general, part of my trips to like Dubai were to go out and talk to the UAE and people over there. And I have great connections now, probably about 10 or 15 that are working on these business development side of things in the UAE for us. And I'm about to start a partnership with somebody that actually does this kind of things, where he goes out and he finds joint ventures that we can do. And so we're approaching this from a little bit different way. We are not going out and hounding customers come on board, come see us, work with us, we're the best. Because that's a hard sale and that's a long process and a long slot to try to get that to work. What we're doing instead is we're going to the people, the businesses, the family offices, and saying, hey, let's do a joint venture. You put up some money, you buy the token for your AI processing, you invest in the stock or the equity of the company. We'll come in and we'll analyze and show you how you can become AI enabled for your businesses or your mini businesses. That way, there's very little risk for you. You don't know what you don't know about AI, and this has been all over LinkedIn and everything else, is at least 20% of the people don't know if AI is going to be beneficial for them. The other 80%, there's about 95% of the AI integrations fail. And so what we're doing is we're saying, hey, look, we will come in and partner with you and show you how you can integrate AI into your business. And look, it may or may not, hopefully it will be GNUS. It depends on what you're doing, because GNUS isn't the end all be all for all AI. It's a very good share of the market. Depends on what you need it for. Like, there are things in there where people need to do training, specifically for some certain category. We do not do training, and we'll never do training, because I just posted something on X, which is interesting. Training is where, pretty much, I'll paraphrase, training is where all the money is spent. Inference is where all the money is made. That's just the way it is. The capital expenditures that you have to set out, like Elon spent $6 billion for 100,000 GPUs. And then DeepSeek comes along and proves that it can be done for a couple $1 million, the training, right? And so all that is, money that's just, burnt up trying to get the best model. And where all the money is made is helping businesses use AI, utilize AI in a fashion that helps their business. And so what we're doing is we're talking to probably 25 or 30 different family offices, businesses, governments, everything else, to basically onboard them onto AI. And more than likely, that means they're going to be using GNUS AI at a 90% cost reduction, because that saves them a lot of the headaches of failure, for the other 95% trying to onboard AI, because we have the expertise in how you can integrate AI in business and make a profit or reduce your cost of capital. So all that being said, I am going to occasionally lurk in the Telegram chats, but I just cannot. I have to cut negativity out of my life, because it's just a distraction. I get on there and people like start hammering me and saying negative things, and it's like, look, I got stuff to do. I don't need to be on here answering questions that have been answered over and over and over again. So I will not be putting good information on the general Telegram chat. I'll be doing it on X or the Genius AI X, or posting it on LinkedIn, and then I'll leave it up to the mods to forward that. But I will look for questions there. So yeah, everybody's in the wrong chat on that other one. If people can, anybody that's on the chat, in this chat, that sees this, if you can tell the other live chat that we had to switch to a different link for the live. Of course, they can always view this afterwards, but yeah, thanks Alex for taking care of that, if you can, or Van Dalen, who are on the chat right now. So let me introduce you to a mystery guest in the background over here. So Serge, why don't you come around and
slide on in the frame?
Yeah, slide on the frame. Oh, come forward a little bit. There you go. So everyone, this is kind of our mystery guest. This is Sergio. He's an interesting fella that we met because of my wife, actually, that he was on something called Nextdoor and asking about crypto, and he wanted to do his own project. But he came on board, and we talked, and he came to my office, and he's local. He works, for the Stanford hospital system, and he has this great idea about a stable coin, but we got to talking, and just the regulatory nightmare and all the uphill battle for that. He kind of switched focus for the GNUS project, and he's been helping, and he has a background in music. He has a lot of hip hop people around the San Francisco Bay Area, and he's kind of pushing me for generating or our streaming service that we're calling GNUStube right now. We'll figure out what the name is final, but GNUStube maybe. So I'll let him kind of introduce himself and talk about kind of what he's working on. So why don't you give us like a 2 or 3 minute background? And
Yeah, no, not to cut in too much, but like I said, ever since I started learning about GNUS, I'm not a technical background kind of guy or founder of any sort. But once I started kind of connecting with Ken, and obviously it took me a while to kind of grasp the background and the technology behind GNUS. So slowly getting caught up and understanding. But now that I do understand the big scheme of things and the overarching project, kind of got that wow factor. So I said, you know what, how about we put this coin on hold, and if anything, let me kind of use me as a tool. Let me join the GNUS team and see what I could do. Obviously, we were talking about streaming platforms. Very excited about that. I'm very excited about the concept, and a lot of people in my network about earning crypto while streaming, watching music, watching shows, watching podcasts, live events. So that's kind of the aha moment that I had, and very, very excited about that.
Yeah, and there's also, it kind of gives us inroads into the Stanford hospital system, because I put together a proposal, and it may or may not go anywhere, but at least Sergio can put that in front of directors and escalate that and say, hey, because they're having problems with integrating AI right now too. Everybody is. Mm-hmm. Everybody I talk to, they're like, we're not sure what to do. And we're giving them, hey, here's what you can do, but you want to step back and analyze your AI and how it's going to help you. And this is what I talk to a lot of the companies about. It's like, you do not want to go replace something that's costing you $10 an hour, right? And spend $1 million for some AI automation, because that $10 an hour can be 20 years or whatever and still not make back the $1 million you spend. And it's all about your profitability minus your cost of capital is your shareholder value or your company value. And so we're kind of partnering with somebody else that I had developed a software for called SuperOrg. And SuperOrg goes in and has a framework so that these Fortune 500 companies or the Russell 3000 companies can analyze whether or not or where to put AI, and we call it being AI ready, and not AI enabled yet, but you got to be AI ready. You don't want to fail like the other 95%, and the reason they're failing is they're just throwing spaghetti against the wall saying, hey, let's just use AI, and not doing an analysis on whether it's going to be profitable or effective or reduce their costs. And where GNUS comes in is there's a simple formula for businesses that Mark Sickles and the SuperOrg system uses. And it's not EBITDA. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, that's earnings before interest, taxes, deductions, and amortizations. And what that means is it's kind of a phony number. And I think it was Charlie Munger said EBITDA is crap or something like that. And the reason is because you can hide your real profitability behind taxes and amortizations and depreciation. And so that's not your real profit. And so what Mark has done with SuperOrg is he worked at Colgate-Palmolive, and over the years he's worked with Fortune 500 companies to analyze the best way to figure out how you can build shareholder value. And that shareholder value can turn into stock price because, it depends on if they're a public company or not. But what it is what he calls NOPAT. And that's a simple thing. net operating profit after taxes. Okay, that's the first part of the formula. Second part of it, which is really easy, it's just basically take all your your projects and their expenses and find out how much profit they're making after taxes, not before depreciation, which is part of taxes, or before amortization, which is before taxes, is part of taxes a lot of times. And then subtract out your cost of capital, and that's CC, and that equals your shareholder value. So your profit minus your cost of capital. And guess what cost of capital is? How much you're spending for AI. That's one of them. How much you're spending for hardware. How much it costs you to get to that profitability. And it could be maintaining employee stuff and all that. And so we're approaching this from a real business perspective where we're talking to these businesses, and saying, look, we may not be the answer. 80% likelihood we are, but it really depends on what kind of AI you need to do, right? And whether it needs to be private, we can help there. It just really depends. And so the Mainnet finalizes the ability for us to go in and execute in these businesses. But it doesn't, it opens up the doors for everybody to start writing applications on here, which takes no time at all. Depends if they already have an application. I'll give you an example. We have GNUS2. There's a project called D2 that basically we can leverage. It has everything built in, and we just have to swap out and put our AI in that, which shouldn't take longer than 3 weeks, and we'll have a streaming application with our own branding, with AI in the background. So my estimates for every single application that either exists or already has, a UI developed for it, which most of them do, is probably 3 to 4 weeks, maybe a little bit longer for more complicated applications like our Chat Genius that we're going to be working on, because there's a lot of new technology in Chat Genius that I put out there that's going to be worked on, but it looks like, a lot of other companies are solving the issues for us every day. And so I've finally gotten to a point where most of the, what I feel like unknowns for that are already there. So thanks, Sergio, for that. And I'll kind of shut up now. Brent, you've been sitting there patiently listening to me. I don't call it a rant.
Sorry. I'm going to fade in the background, but again, on the application side streaming, I'm going to try to do what I can to help out with that. But also I'm learning more about the enterprise stuff. So that kind of ties in. We have Stanford University, who's also interested in utilizing some of this technology, but I'm going to fade in the background now.
Sure. Yeah.
Ken, you did a great job of kind of canvassing, where we are. I thought it was interesting, the commentaries about, helping these folks coming on board to know how to use AI. In many cases, well, I don't know if it's many, but certainly there are cases where they already have an idea. They're bringing that to the table. But broadly, I think the reverberations of what AI is offering and how disruptive it is creating that the kind of agitation where there's just a lot of investors, et cetera, vendors that recognize that you need to play that game or you fall behind. There are some conversations whose details I will not get into, where I've actually listened to founders, et cetera, kind of get to that realization point that they need to play that game or they need to become irrelevant. So much of where capital is being forwarded is to initiatives like this. If you're doing traditional business, oftentimes it's just like, why are we even having a conversation with you? Is what a lot of these owners feel as though. I mean, that from what I've seen. So I'm just kind of, echoing Ken that the dimension of there's a lot of demand, and it will be part of this moving forward will be the challenge of scaling to be able to answer those questions about how they can use AI, or if they're already using AI, how do they use it more effectively?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Brent. And just so everybody knows, I hope the moderators can come in, and I don't know who has access to, I think the Genius admins that are on the YouTube studio have access to the chat. Please, delete the negative messages and mute the people for, 5 or 10 minutes when you get a chance, because I'm not going to put up with people coming in here and saying, trying to spread freedom, uncertainty, or fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It's definitely not freedom, but because that does nobody any good. If you're not here to help the project and you're sitting there screaming, things like, you've been promising a lot of dates and not delivering, that's bullshit. I never have promised a date. That's the problem. I don't promise. I say that it's quite possible. It looks like we could get there. That is not a promise. That's just an estimate. And so really, I'm not going to put up with the negativity. I cut negativity out of my life. And so anybody that's on the chats or, Telegram, I'm going to not answer and I'm not going to escalate or amplify the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I will tell everyone that is doing that, you're not doing yourself any favors. If you want the price of the token to go up, what I've seen is I've had people, and we need the moderators to kind of delete a lot of the messages that are just nonsense and just polluting the Telegram channel and stuff like that. Because what ends up happening is I've had investors, real serious investors, come in and see that channel and see the fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I think that's actually kind of maybe some of the goals of some of those people that are in there is try to, bring that FUD in so that people won't, so the project won't be successful. And I know this has happened in the past to me where other projects will pay people to come in. And so I can't assume that, you're a real legit person if all you do is come in and try to spread FUD into the project. And what I've learned over the years is I just need to cut out negative people from my life because that is a distraction. And so keep trying your FUD and all that. And I'm recommending the mods just, start deleting the shit and let's move on and, keep the company out. I don't need to, of all the people that you are questioning when they're bringing in the FUD, like I said, I did answer questions, is to question me, the main person that has funded the entire project, almost 100%. In fact, I would say 100% for the last 10 years. I don't need your negativity to drive down my productivity. And I've learned over the last 45-year career, if I just stop listening to them and, cut them out of my life, it just makes me such a more productive. Let's put it that way. So anyway, that's my end of my rant. Let's move on. So Dubai was great. Like I said, I hooked up with not hooked up, but, met up with a guy and networked with a bunch of people and networked with one particular guy who has access, supposedly, and we'll see, to a lot of the sovereign wealth funds over there in Saudi Arabia or the UAE, which is awesome. And so I have to do up a small video for him so that he can go start pushing those joint ventures. And look, there's no payment up front with him, which is awesome. He's doing this all where we're going to split the joint venture 50-50. He's going to bring in the money. He's going to manage the joint venture. We're trying to set up a lot of joint ventures because every one of them adds to the Genius network and the ability for people to use AI on the Genius network. And so the dates for the mainnet, when you ask about that, it's like I said, it's very irrelevant to whether we're going to be successful or not. So I'm done answering for dates. It's going to be soon. Like I said, when we call it mainnet, there will be a switch that will flip that basically says, okay, now you can start using your Genius tokens on the AI through the Ethereum EVM mainnets. And then we'll be mainnet. It's already working. It's already done. The last piece of it is just making sure that the security is there, that we flip the switch, that your tokens are safe when they come in to the Super Genius network. it already works with testnet. So, everything already works. We just have to make sure that the bridging happens, in this last thing. And that's on me and, and some of the other devs to finish up here. And I'm hoping over the next couple of weeks we'll be able to do that. It's about 3/4 of the way done, and I'm using AI to help me finish it off. And it is simply a message. That's all it is capturing the messages on Ethereum or Binance or Polygon or Base. Capture the messages of the, hey, transfer my tokens to do a job. And we just get that message. Then we fire off the jobs, which already work on testnet or on the Super Genius network. That is the last piece that we're waiting for to call ourselves Mainnet. But again, I'm going to digress from that because it is not important in the grand scheme of things until we have our Chat Genius finalized, where it will utilize that AI, or a major company utilizing the AI. We need to integrate with the Philippines for that. And so that's the whole issue with it. And that's why I get tired of people asking when Mainnet, because it's a thinly disguised attempt at trying to pump the token so that you can pump your bags. There's no other reason that I can think of when Mainnet. Other than now we can go and do the business development and be full throttle on the business development and start marketing the heck out of it. I don't care if that drives the token price up. What I care is that people are utilizing that, which means that it will go up because of the burn mechanisms, but it's a real business where I want real customers and monthly recurring revenue with that thing. And that is just the mainnet is just the conduit for that to happen, to start. And that is going to be short. And so going to be heads down for the next 2 to 3 weeks doing that. And so, okay, so whatever. All right. So moderators, hold on. I'm going to add,
By the way, Ken, I just want to point out that the dashboard I'm looking at for our conversation, this is a new streaming mechanism we're using.
yeah.
I'm seeing a lot more on this dashboard than just the GNUSpective. And I don't know if we're sharing the entire dashboard with everyone who's on this broadcast or...
No. It's completely different. I'm going through OBS and all that. So I'm going to make somebody a moderator here. Managing, standard moderator, managing. All right, here we go. So Van Valen, oops. Accidentally set the wrong person. Oh, well. Remove as managing moderator. Sorry, I'm going to set Van Halen or some of these guys as moderators. This is a new chat thing for me, so I'm going to add. So let's see here. All right, there's one. Yeah, you guys need to remove these, negative messages off of here because I'm seeing them and I don't want to see them. And you can, time these people out. So Van Valen, you're now a moderator on the chat for that. So if you can help out there, that would be great. Just, you can put them in a timeout for like 5 minutes. I'm tired of the, the ranting and raving and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, so I'm going to ignore the chat for now. So if, Paul, I don't know if you're on here or not, but I can make you a moderator on the chat as well, for kind of taking care of that stuff. But anyway, I'll ignore that. So sorry, what was your, let's go back. Cause that's, I hate to chat. I should probably minimize it because it's like, anyway, go ahead. I just wanted it so that people could ask questions and, we could put them on there, but we'll get to that later. I'll let the other moderators.
There's a little bit of some rough edges as we just kind of get accustomed also to this new streaming platform.
Yeah, so. And just real quick, the reason I switched over to OBS is because I've been using that for my videos, and Restream was charging us $200 a month for, and we would do, 1 a month, 2 a month, maybe 3 a month, and it was ridiculous. And every time I had to add an editor or something like that, it was more money, and it's just like, And then, I found out OBS can do this, and we'll see how this goes. There's going to be some hiccups here and there. So let's get back to, anyway. So go ahead, Brent. You were saying something, and let's get back to it.
Well, I'm curious if, does it make sense to put some time into discussing the chat capability?
Yeah. I sent that to you recently. Okay, so this is a fantastic thing, is that what I've done is over the last couple months is we realized that there's going to be a number of applications. Like I said, the streaming application, which we can call GNUStube for now. But I kind of came to realize that there is we can use a lot of the training as teachers to train these things called small and micro language models. And we can combine those in a way that creates a chat genius that is equivalent or probably even better, and I'll explain the better part in a second, to Chat GPT or Grok and stuff like that. And we can be profitable with that with that chat language model system at $5 a year for unlimited tokens. And so that opens up a whole new world. And the reason that it can happen, and the reason it's better, is because with these small language models, we can tailor them based on culture and language. So, for instance, if you're over in the Philippines and have your own little language model that's based in the Philippines, and the culture of the Philippines and the language and even subcultures inside the Philippines, if there are them, and you can vote on the answers, like give it a thumbs up or thumbs down, it can retrain itself to make sure that the answers are very localized and very well tailored or retrained, or what do they call that? Not even quantized, but I guess trained in your particular culture and area and language. That's something that the other large language models can't do. And so that's a pretty cool thing. And then the other conversation that I've been having with AI and infrastructure architects and stuff like that is that our system allows for something that these high-end H100s don't do. And so an H100 is useful if you have 100 users on that H100 saturating the GPU. But guess what? Now you have a bottleneck going across the internet and the infrastructure of the internet going into that H100 for it to serve 100 customers. And so what we do, instead of that 100 customers in one GPU, we take one customer and give them 3 GPUs. And then another customer may have another 3 GPUs. So in essence, it's acting a lot like saturating an H100 or a high-end GPU, but from a different way, by breaking it up into these small language models and allowing the efficiency of being, the servers or the small language models, the people that are giving you the information back when you're chatting, are really close to you, because that's the nature of peer-to-peer networking. And so there's a lot of benefits to the system, and we're going to build this because it will naturally start to utilize the AI, the Genius AI system, for everybody that's doing the chat, and then start burning the tokens and start making profits for the company, basically. And so there's a lot of things that we're going to be working on right after Mainnet, and I've spec'd it out, the plan. There's not, when we're doing these applications, there's going to be, some hiccups, of course, but not nearly as many security problems that we have to worry about, because we're worrying about that right now with Genius infrastructure. And so, when we have that plan, barring, other typical daily life problems, that plan should be very much hittable for doing these applications on top of the operating system. For instance, a lot of times I've built full-on things in about 3 weeks when the underlying infrastructure is already there and secure and set up. So I'm pretty confident that, these apps that I'm talking about building are anywhere, from 3 weeks to 6 weeks each, but they might be serialized because I need to pay people, or I do it, or, my developers do it. And there's only 3 of us right now, or, 5 of us only 3 of us that can actually work on the applications. And so I've paid for the games, and the games there's 3 games that are coming out. Neo Farm, which is a farming game. Neo Tower Defense, which is a tower defense game. And then of course, Storm Raiders, which is already in beta, and anybody that wants to play that stuff can already play the games. And so, come into the beta. You can play it on 4 platforms. You can't play it on iOS. That's just a Apple thing. But anyway, so that's kind of where we're going. The Dubai thing was very expensive, but it was very good networking, and I hope. I don't know the timing of when that stuff will pan out. It takes time to build those joint ventures, but I'm confident that we will, over this next year, have, 2 to 3 joint ventures with, the UAE in some fashion or form. And then we'll have a couple more around the world, a couple in the US, 1 or 2 in the Philippines, 1 or 2 in Malaysia, 1 or 2 in Cambodia. We're talking to all of those guys. And so after Mainnet, that's when the real business development and scaling the business really is going to take off. So anyway, I got to breathe.
I'm really delighted about the chat capability as just, even if it's just a showcase, but I think it's more than that. Something that I've been pondering is the lack of sustainability of a lot of these larger AI endeavors, where there's just immense amount of capital being fed to it, subsidizing it, so to make it either free or inexpensive. And it's like, okay, well, how long can we keep this up?
Yeah.
Before finally the real costs start to set in. And so when I look at Genius, I look at this is the built-in escape valve, because it is the sustainable path where those costs are, that burden of all those costs are just not there. So, I almost venture to envision a day, and I'm not sure when that day would be, where it's like the chat capabilities, using that as an example, I can depend on that off of Genius when I'm not too sure where these other guys are going to be. I mean, they should be there, but it's still just a little bit of a question mark for me when I could consider how much money is being shoveled at those other endeavors, and the disparity, the incredible disparity between what they cost and the lack of capital expense for Genius. So appreciative, Ken, by the way, of that being another dimension that you have ensured would be kind of integrated and incorporated into the Genius network.
Yeah, and I mean, even AI agents, I figured out a way a couple months ago when all this AI agent stuff was coming up, and I'm like, okay, well, I see that that's a great way to automate a lot of your life and stuff like that, but I was very worried about security on it, because it's like, I know, Node.js is very much a problem, and the attack vectors and exploits that they have with the supply chain hacks and stuff like that, I'm like, of course. I mean, that's how I got kind of hacked a few years ago, was kind of almost a supply chain hack, really, where, but they hid something in a particular GitHub. But anyway, that's another story. But I am very cautious about these hypes of open claw and all that, because, you can see that I think the narrative is being pushed by hackers right? It's like, hey, just, don't worry about the technical background on this. Just jump into OpenClaw. And this is why, when I was on the panel with Michael Turpin, and he's doing the same thing. He's just an influencer. He's not technical. They call him the godfather of Bitcoin, but he's like, oh, yeah, you should use OpenClaw or something. He said something about, I'm part of the lobster family, because they have like the lobster for their pet. And I'm just like cringing when he's telling all these people in these family offices and everything how good his life is going because he's automated all these things with OpenClaw. And I'm like, have you seen that 2 days earlier I'm on, I knew it was coming, but 2 days earlier I'm on X and see this white hat hacker put out this post saying, hey, everybody, I went in there and was able to infiltrate in there as a white hat hacker, and I got all the keys and stuff like that. I'm just warning you. And then, Cisco went and looked at it and they found all these vulnerabilities and everything else. And it's like everybody's just like, oh yeah, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to install a virus on my computer and everything should be fine. And it's like, and it to me, I mean, this may be a conspiracy theory, but I really think hackers are pushing, this stuff out there so that they want people to, hey, just trust this, or maybe it is to put a negative spin on AI. Hey, look, I used AI and it got all my keys and it drained my account. I don't know, but something weird's going on because people are just, they're pumping it, and it looks like AI a lot of times is doing the marketing on X about OpenClaw, because I just get, very similar things in my feed about, oh, OpenClaw is the best, OpenClaw this, oh, there's a new one for this, and blah, blah, blah. And it's all hype, and it really worries me because I'm not going to install it, and I'm technical because I know the attack vectors, and it gives a bigger attack surface. But anyway, that's kind of why I warned everybody at the Dubai investment summit. I said, great, Michael, that it's working for you, but I, being technical, would never install that stuff on my computer until I go and, do a security audit on it, make sure that everything's loaded on there, because it's so easy to taint those libraries and stuff, especially with Node.js. I mean, it's all open source, and they have hacked a lot of the maintainers of the libraries and gotten in there, and I mean, it's another attack vector, and I don't know. So that's the reason I started thinking about integrating AI agents into Genius, and I wrote up a article about it on how we are more secure than that, because we don't allow third parties, even though we're open source, to just blindly add their packages on the computer, that are open source, and you hit npm install and it installs the virus on your computer. That doesn't happen on ours. We build the C++ libraries, we build the agents, and then we distribute the applications. And there's no third party coming in and installing unknown software on your computer. And so anyway, I hope that this agent stuff doesn't get too tainted by the time we release ours, and people understand that, hey, here's a more secure way of doing it than just using the open source OpenClaw and all those kind of things.
Ken, not that anything you said needs validation. However, I will just go ahead and tell a quick story. It was not just like about 3 weeks ago, if that, that I was using npm, pnpm to be honest, and put together, there was a website. I did not use the backend route of Next.js. I had a different compile backend. So I was kind of minimizing the footprint of how much I'm depending on build-related packages. Put that thing out to a dev environment on AWS, and as I was hitting it, just doing some testing, unbeknownst to me, it was actually launching port scanners right there from AWS. And I started getting alerts on my dashboard indicating, hey, you seem to be launching attacks against the internet. So to your point,
yeah,
it's incredible, absolutely incredible how readily those kinds of chains of dependencies are compromised. And when you talk about the call influencers or whatever those messages are that are saying just go use this, go use that, go use the other thing. I tend to agree with you. You got to be watchful. How much of that is call it innocent hype, and how much of that is a little bit nefarious because when you ride a wave of excitement, you can overlook call the dangers because they are. And so yeah, the need for security has never been greater. And I mean, that little story of what just happened to me, right? It was just a dev environment, and I caught it there. But it's a real threat.
Yeah, I agree. And one thing I'd like in the chat is I don't mind answering questions, but let's kind of curate those. I don't know if you're on there, Paul, if you're on that, but eventually I'll start to answer questions towards the end of this. But anyway, let's talk a little bit more about, we have the Chat Genius, we have the games, we talked about the different projects that are coming up. I've also, just so everybody knows, I've in the UAE, I'm trying to, through this Dubai contact, get in touch with or get a joint venture or some kind of venture with the Saudi PIF fund, because they're trying to create 50,000 jobs in the games and industry, or just in general. And my take on the future is that AI is going to enable 1 to 3 person companies to start to make a living for those companies, and it's going to break up into these kind of decentralized companies that are 1 to 3 people that are making good money, and even if they're going to create 50,000 jobs, they're going to create 15,000 businesses, really. And that's my view of what AI is. You can see it right now where people are using AI, not to vibe code, but as a partner to help them get stuff finished quickly. And, if you're a good engineer, you can do it. But if you're just a vibe coder, I think that stuff is pretty sloppy and doesn't work half the time. And it's not, not a good thing to use all that stuff, but it does bring a lot of slop into software, of like, hey, you could use this system for, $1,000. Well, yeah, but there's, it doesn't do this and this and this and this because I vibe coded it, or it doesn't have the security. But I still think that AI, if used correctly, is going to accelerate and allow 1 to 3 person companies to establish themselves and flourish. And I'll give you an example, is that for artists and AI, not AI, but making 3D models for games using AI used to take 2 to 3 weeks to do just one model. And I can take from concept to a animated working model in a game engine in about 15 minutes. From typing the text to generating the image to generating the model to animating the model. But I know what I'm doing. All right. I've done it for years, and I've used to work with artists and get that stuff in there. So I know how to get and integrate stuff into game engines. So I think if there is somebody that's technical, I think that they can, start a 1 to 3 person company and be very successful. And that was kind of my pitch to the Saudi PIF fund is look, there's AI, right, which can create jobs, and there's the gaming industry, which can create jobs. And I'm an expert on both of those. And so let's do a joint venture, and I can show you how you can use Genius to do AI for your companies and create those jobs. And then you can also create the games that will be the nodes that help support the AI and also make money as well and create jobs. And so that was one of the kind of pitch proposals. And just for everybody's information, I'm not spending a lot of time on this because I use AI a lot, but I have to go in and, run it through the plan and change things and have it say, no, that's not what I meant. This paragraph needs to be changed. No, it's this. No, it's that. And that takes about 10, 15 minutes to run through everything and get it correct. Then I take that and I shove it into something called Gamma app and have it generate everything. And then I have to go and massage that a little bit. And that's probably another 15, 20, 30 minutes. But it is really not AI doing. It's translating what's up here into what I want to communicate with other individuals. But it's not AI generated at all. It's my thoughts, getting them straightened out in a plan or a idea documented, and then getting out there to the joint ventures or people to understand how to effectively use AI. So what are your thoughts on that? Because you helped at the game company quite a few years ago, but do you see a lot of you're starting to use AI now too, Brent. Let's talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, I've been using it like very, very, very heavily, and I think it intriguing that I have finally fallen into a new pattern for my development, and a lot of emphasis on getting a exactingly correct spec. Incrementally make a spec. Have the AI do the implementation. Make a spec. Have the AI do the implementation. But so much emphasis on getting that spec just right, and I am using AI to help get it right. But otherwise, every time the AI assists, I look over what it produced and I say, hey, you've got gaps. You forgot this. You forgot that. And, this sort of thing. And sometimes I have the AI kind of get competition, Grok giving its critique of something Opus did and vice versa. But where I have found myself is 99%, at least for the work I'm doing right now, 99% of the code being generated is all generated by the AI. And I am now getting in metrics that show that I'm replacing a traditional full-time 5-person team. What would normally take them about 6 weeks, I do in under 10 days by myself.
Yeah.
And what I have thus far seen is that it's actually quite sustainable. I'm watching this pattern repeat over and over and over again. But it doesn't, everyone gets, your mileage may vary, because I hear other people who are luminaries who say, I have done such a great job, I now get 80% of my code generated by the AI. And I'm like, I've got 99%. Maybe that's a bad thing. Maybe they would look at me and say, well, you're doing something wrong. I don't know. Working for me so far.
Yeah, I think that's just getting to know prompt engineering and how to put the guardrails correctly and the best processes to use on that, because I'm pretty much it writes the code for me 99% of the time, but like you said, I give it the spec and I do it one function at a time, and it's a faster typer than me, basically. It's really it's my code and my architecture, right? And it's a faster way for me to not have to, normally when you program, you're like, okay, I'm going to call this. All right, what's the parameters on that? Go look at the documentation, figure out what, you have to pass as a parameter to get what you want out of this function or this library. And now AI just does it automatically. And so I don't have to go look that stuff up. So it takes a lot of the menial tasks, the typing, the go look up the documentation to make sure it's, with this version. And, we used to have to do that all manually, and it's sped up productivity quite a bit for me. But, anyway, maybe we should, I appreciate it because it's kind of, I don't need validation, but, I knew that this was effective and for my own experiences, but I appreciate the validation on, you just prove that, a 1-person to 3-person, can make a company, basically.
Yeah.
And anyway, all right. So that's funny. 99%, Brent, got to be doing something wrong. Lots of laugh.
It's true. I'm kind of I'm not learning how to properly get the AI to work for me.
Yeah.
Clearly.
All right, so here's a good question. Thanks, Alex, for this. When AWS and Google launch a decentralized light GPU marketplace in a few months, what's the general plan? Because they will once they see this taking market share. Yeah, they might. I doubt it. It's like when I went to work for Google, 4 years they would not adopt blockchain. So, and blockchain was taking market share. And it took them 4 years. So Google's probably not going to, or maybe they are. But in general, they might. But, I also have a patent, which helps. And the decentralized light GPU market, they cannot compete in price. This is the biggest thing. They have capital expenditures. And so they have to pay for their electricity. They have to pay for their GPUs. They have to pay for the people to maintain their GPUs. All that is cost of capital. They cannot compete with us. The only way they can compete with us is basically adopting our way of doing things, which is the decentralized, bring your own device, to the network, and you're part of the network. And if they do that, then they violate the patent. So, and in reality, I think there's room for all of us anyway. Even there's room for Grok and those high-end decentralized guys, or centralized guys. They're going to be feeding the government. The government is working with them to, make their own AI system to help with their, newest, technology and, internal scientific stuff for the USA. Well, that's fine. I'll take the other 90% of the people that aren't in there. I'll take the other 90% of the market. And that's what we do with games too. It's like, yeah, there's the 1% that make money and with ads, but there's the 99% that don't. And so we're looking to monetize the people and democratize the payouts. And I don't ever think that AWS or Google is ever going to do that. Why would they? That takes away their profit, So anyway.
By the way, not that it matters, but we are people beyond.
Oh, yeah. We'll take a couple more minutes to do that. We kind of got a late start, too, because of the technical difficulties. Oh, that's nice. Thanks for that, Ben. Just a comment. Learned that explaining to a grandmother is better prompt instead of explaining to a 5-year-old. Yeah, a 5th grader actually is better, too. But I think grandma might be better because she's had the experience. And I think that's probably pretty awesome to kind of switch to. Thanks for that. I'm going to probably start using that. Explain like I'm a grandmother. And then it'd be like shouting, "Hello, did you understand what I'm..." No, I didn't mean because she's deaf.
Suddenly you start using all these analogies about baking. It's like, okay, wait a minute.
Yeah. So there's another good question in here. So much talk of AI. Yeah, we're going to market the same infrastructure being valuable for non-AI compute as well. That has been a lower priority only because of the current narrative. But that's still been in the back of my mind. In fact, It's a Fu, who's one of the engineers, and I had a conversation a couple days ago about that because he was like, "Hey, do we need this particular data format?" And I said, "Yeah, that's actually for rendering, which is outside of AI. So we need to keep that as part of the spec." And so we're all good. All right. Let's see. Is there any other questions on here? I guess link is wrong. All right. So I learned today, everybody, that I can schedule the recording inside OBS. I had scheduled the live stream inside YouTube Studio, and for some reason, OBS, which is open source, whatever it stands for, Studio, is does that internally. You can schedule, if I say start streaming, then it brings up a dialogue for me to schedule it. And I didn't know that. I just thought, there was a live control panel on YouTube in here, and I thought I just selected the stream and that didn't work. And so that's why that happened. But next one, I think we have this down, and I'll check the audio on the stream too to make sure that works, because I have a feeling that it may be kind of echoey for you, Brent, because I hear the kind of echo coming from my Mac Studio speakers back into the audio mixer.
No, actually, I've got perfectly crisp audio.
Well, on your side you might be, but I'm not sure about the recording.
On my side.
Yeah.
Now, maybe it's just the medication I'm taking that makes it seem like it's crisp.
Yeah. It also could be because this new kind of interface on the control room part of it, I may not be. Oh, wait. Here, let's see. Okay. And now I'm muted. But you can't hear me now, right?
Wait silent.
Yeah.
You just muted.
Yeah. Which is interesting because, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'm back. And it's just me figuring out how to set up that because my voice is going through this video.ninja and it's going through my speaker here on OBS. So I'm not sure if it's just you or not. So anyway. And yeah, one other mention is for Slime Green Crypto, really at the kind of end of this. I've talked with him yesterday. He's semi-local, but I'm going to look to him for some business development stuff and help in marketing too, because he's in that area. And he's a sales guy that has some application developer stuff, but he's really interested in the project and helping out. And I don't mind talking to people like that. You know, I don't want to talk to the negative fudsters because I don't know if they're paid, you know, from some other project to bring this stuff in, but I'm not going to engage with that stuff because that just amplifies it. And so we just need to delete it and move on. But Slime Green Crypto, he's, you know, seems like a good young person that could help out with the project. And I'm interested in people that want to help with the project and not spread FUD and things like that. And so if you're willing to help out in some way, you know, talk with the mods and the team and things like that, because even Sergio, I mean, he's over here, he's decided to kind of help out. He gets the project, and, you know, the way we get this done is by us all helping each other out to move it forward. I'm going to, from the technical perspective, continue to do my best to get this thing to Mainnet, and then the marketing and the business development will trigger. I mean, they already kind of have triggered. I mean, I'm out there prepping the, you know, market and these joint ventures with the project. And as soon as we say that it's Mainnet, then that's when we can start going, okay, we can integrate now and we can execute, right? And so, yes, it's taken some time, but again, you have to be secure when you go out to these joint ventures, because you mess it up one time and you'll be dead in the water. And so we can't have that happen. So anyway, all right. So thanks everyone. Yeah, I guess that's it. We'll do more of these, and appreciate everyone's time. I'm going to stop the streaming now, and thanks everybody for your time. And I think for next time, you know, in the chat, maybe we also just do either we don't have a chat or we just have questions that come up on the external part of that, or I just, you know, mute the chat so I don't see it, because it got very distracting during the thing, and I need to, you know, stay positive and keep working on this thing to finish it up. So, all right. Thanks everyone. And thanks Brent for.
Thanks, Ken.
Talk to you later. Bye.